Welcome to a rules you got wrong. In response to the recent Orks versus Grey Knights game against Sid, a little 14-year-old boy who kicked my butt. But we're going to talk about that. First, Snow Orb. Correct me if I'm wrong, but when playing Dawn of War, you can deploy up to 2 units from your troop selections. Dedicated transports also count as a unit of troops, so Sid was only allowed to deploy 1 Chimera with 1 squad of henchmen inside of it. Read the example at the bottom right of page 93 of the rulebook. Already embarked in their dedicated transport, which is his 2nd troops. Yeah, we did it wrong. He actually did it right. He put on 1, and I was like, dedicated transports don't count as force organizations, so you can bring 2 of them. Turns out it wouldn't have made any difference, because it would have just been able to come on the board, which is, if anything, he would have got a better position. But still, good to know for future games. Dedicated transports count as a troop choice in Dawn of War. Dawn of War is just weird. It was fun to play though, you know, mix things up. But yes, we should have only brought the 1 Chimera on with the squad. And Zetechnon. Thought you could only take 1 henchman squad per Inquisitor. And then I thank Eternal Hunger for explaining Kotiaz allows Inquisitorial henchmen warbands to be taken as troops choices. So there you go. So unlimited henchman squads, well, as troops choices. So you can take lots of them. Maverick 452. I don't believe Sid was able to shoot the boys' squad due to the Chimera moving more than 6 inches. It actually moved 12 inches. Right. But as soon as you disembark, the squad is by itself. Because it's not open-topped, it couldn't charge, but you can move 12, disembark out of the transport, and then you can shoot as normal. That's always been available. But if you want to stay inside and shoot, then there's an issue. But he got out. So it's A-okay. Scary. I'm pretty sure you don't press that when you're off the table. This is similar to other at the beginning of the turn powers and abilities that exist. When you're off the table, you don't use them. Farseer powers are a great example. Things like Fortune and Guide can't be used when they're off the table. I like that. I like that. Let's see. Looted wagons. At the start of the Orc movement phase, each looted wagon. So if the looted wagon is not on the board, it can't be rolled for. I would say, yes, I agree with you. That if the unit is off the board and it says at the beginning of the phase, do this for each looted wagon, and there's no looted wagon on the board, and then during the movement phase it comes on the board, the start has already passed, and so you don't have to roll for it. I could have had an extra shot with my boom gun. Interesting. I like you guys. You guys are helping me out. I rend like crazy. Dan is gonna get his butt kicked by a little kid. Haha. That's not nice. But it's true. It's all but true. Okay. Space Frisian. Did that Libby cast 3 powers during the Orc assault? Didn't know that was possible. Yeah, I didn't even know they can cast more than 1. Just because all I have to do is those weird boys. Although Farseers cast a bunch, that I deal with a bunch. I don't know. Anyways, he did make 1 mistake, and that one of the powers, I think it's the Hammer Hand or either Might of Titan, one of those 2, it specifies that during your assault phase, you can do it. So during my assault phase, when I assaulted him, he shouldn't have used that power. So he had +1 strength more, 1 more strength than he should have, which I think would have been winning on 3s instead of 2s. So it did make a difference. So for the future, Sid now knows. At least, hopefully he's watching this video. And now everyone else knows, at least. Fire at will. Strength 3 shock attack gun is still AP 2, so there wouldn't be any feel no pain. Didn't make any difference as they died, but it's something to remember. Yes, Sid actually, you know, nothing against Sid. He likes rolling his feel no pain. I had to constantly remind him, no, you don't get feel no pain. Don't get feel no pain. And so a few times it was just like, oh, okay, he gets feel no pain. But most of the time when we were attacking, yes. We did eliminate his feel. A few got through. So that's the ones on camera. But for the most part, Sid did well. So, but that's correct. He shouldn't have rolled. And then, did you roll once for each Jokero? You only roll once, but get +1 per Jokero. And then Zarkranak, he has a long pair. I'm going to read it all. Okay. Okay, so I use Jokero Weaponsmiths every once in a while. So here's the rule. Page 50, Inconceivable Customization, an Inquisitorial, and I just read 2. Basically, you get to roll, and you roll once, and you get +1 for each additional Jokero in the squad. So we had 2. So you roll 1 die, and you get +1 of the roll. If you get a 6, then you get to roll 2 dice, and you ignore any repeats of any rolls. And it says including duplicate rolls of 6. And so we did that terribly wrong. Well, the one, he just rolled just the 1, he got the 1 ability, that's fine. But the other one, he kept them rolling, and the 1 kept them being a 5 or a 6, and so he kept them re-rolling. But he rolled 2 each time because he had 2 weaponsmiths. And so from now on, now we know, we don't do that anymore. You just roll 1, you get +1 or +2 depending on how many Jokero weaponsmiths you bring. And if you do get a 6, you roll the 2, but then that's it. That's the end. No matter what, you get those 2 dice, that's it. Which is interesting. Because if you brought like 3, that's +3 to your roll. Maybe you can only bring 2. I don't know how many you can bring, but if you brought 3 and you rolled a 3, then you get a 6. So odds are you're going to get a 6. Pretty big odds. And so you get a 6, and you get to roll 2 more dice, and odds are you're going to get another 5 or a 6. And 5 is good, but almost seems like a waste. Because you're going to get that extra 6 again. Oh well, seems like 2 is a pretty good number. But yeah, we chained, did it like almost like chain reaction in like a apocalypse game when you roll 6 and you have to re-roll. But Sid, now we know. The Grey Knight player seemed to have missed and could have 4 upgrades in 1 unit. No, misread some stuff. That's why you need to read the rules of your models all the way through. I've been one of those guys I feel a little silly after. Silly. I always feel silly. Maybe it's like I'm a silly guy. Oh well. Notre Dame guy 10. Shooting through your own models does not give your opponent a cover save, aka when you mention the Vindicar Assassin. Oh, but it does. You see, when units are part of the same squad, if a unit is here and a model is here and a model is here, and this model wants to shoot over here, this model, because it's part of the same squad, does not block line of sight. So you don't have to like spread it out in like lines of 1 to like, but if you have a squad here and another squad here, this squad is going to block line of sight for this squad if he wants to shoot past it. That's just the rules. Like if a model is being blocked by line of sight. And so a lot of people misunderstand that rule, which I don't understand why. You just read the rules. But I've made some silly mistakes too, so no big deal. But so we all know models don't block line of sight only if they're part of the same squad. If they're different squads, they do block line of sight. And they would cause cover to be given to my battle wagon, for example. Potato 32. The first assault that you got overrun, it should not have happened because the Libby is in Terminator armor. Oh yeah! Oh yeah! I don't even remember how many guys I had left. Actually, I think I had a bunch. I don't think I would have been able to regroup because I had 20 and I ran away because I was less than 10. So I would have been less than half. But maybe some little pistol shots would have made a difference. Probably not. So not a huge difference overall in the game. It would have made a huge impact. However, good to know. Terminators cannot overrun. And so since you move as slow as your slowest unit, the weakest link, you cannot overrun if you have a Terminator HQ in your squad. Lumpu. The Burners should have rolled a morale check from losing 25% of their squad. They did. They totally did. So, I don't know. Zanshep. Those henchmen are much better than I thought. I know, right? I was like, I'll just attack with just a squad of boys. I got 20 of them. It'll, you know, there's like 8 henchmen there. I should be able to clean them up, no problem. I think the main difference is that I hadn't experienced the Might of the Titan and Hammerhand, which is +2 strength, which is almost guaranteed only wound on 2s, which is a huge difference. I didn't even know this existed. And so playing against Grey Knights, okay, I've got slaughtered twice, but it's mostly out of ignorance. I just need to read their codex and know what they're capable of and make sure they're following their rules perfectly, because there's a lot of like very specific that can easily be misinterpreted, and so it's hard to catch when people are not knowingly cheating, but it's just they're just not following them 100%, so they get, you know, that little bit of edge up. And it's hard because you expect Grey Knights to be overpowered all the time. So you're like, oh, okay, whatever. But they're not quite that powerful. You just gotta know what they're capable of. And so I'm fine playing against Grey Knights. I don't think they're really overpowered that much, but it's more my ignorance that is killing me. And so now that I have and bad luck, and very bad luck. Oh, so much bad luck. Terrible rolls. But Grey Knights are still good. I really don't think they're terribly overpowered. I really don't think so.